The quantum communicator aboard the UES Stellar Dawn crackled with static before Captain Sarah Chen's voice cut through the interference. "Command, please verify. You're saying the Nix vessels just appeared?" "Affirmative, Captain," responded Admiral Marcus Rodriguez from Earth Command. "Our deep space sensors detected no approach vectors. One moment empty space, the next. 12 ships, each roughly twice the size of our largest carriers." Sarah studied the holographic display showing the alien vessels hovering near Jupiter's orbit. Their ships resembled crystalline structures, with surfaces that seemed to ripple like liquid metal under the distant sunlight. After centuries of wondering if humanity was alone in the cosmos, first contact had finally arrived. The year was 2287, and humanity had spread across the solar system, establishing colonies on Mars, Venus's upper atmosphere, and several moons of Jupiter and Saturn. The discovery of quantum tunneling technology had just begun to open up the possibility of interstellar travel, though no colonies beyond Sol had yet been established. "The Nix vessels are transmitting again," Lieutenant Patel announced from his communication station. "Same frequency as before." Sarah nodded. "Put it through." The alien message was being automatically translated by their AI systems. The voice that emerged was artificially smooth, nearly musical. "We greet the children of Sol. We are the Nix Collective. We come seeking dialogue and understanding." Over the next 6 months, humanity and the Nix established what seemed to be a promising relationship. The aliens shared knowledge of stellar cartography, taught humans about various forms of exotic matter, and expressed interest in human culture and art. Their representatives, tall humanoid figures with iridescent skin that seemed to shift colors with their emotions, became a common sight in diplomatic centers across Earth. Dr. James Morrison, head of Sinological Studies at the newly established First Contact Institute, was among the first to notice something wasn't quite right. "Their technological sharing is selective," he reported to the Global Council. "They're willing to discuss theoretical physics at length, but deflect any questions about their propulsion systems or energy generation methods." His concerns were noted but ultimately overshadowed by the excitement of first contact and the potential benefits of alien alliance. That proved to be humanity's first mistake. The attack came exactly 7 months after first contact. Meridian Prime, humanity's first successful extrasolar colony, had been established just 2 years earlier around Proxima Centauri. The settlement of 300,000 pioneers represented humanity's first true step into the galaxy. Dr. Elena Santos was conducting atmospheric analysis when her instruments detected the anomaly. "These readings can't be right," she muttered, recalibrating her equipment. The energy signature she was detecting was unlike anything in human databases. Then she saw them. 3 Nix vessels, different from the diplomatic ships they'd encountered before. These were angular, predatory, their surfaces crackling with energy that seemed to distort the space around them. Elena's warning came too late. The Nix ships initiated what would later be termed a gravity cascade. The effect began at the colony's core, the planet's own gravitational field turning against itself. The crust buckled and fractured, oceans boiled into space, and the atmosphere was stripped away in minutes. From orbit, it looked as if the planet itself was being turned inside out. The colony's quantum communication array managed to transmit one final data burst before it was destroyed. The message contained sensor readings, visual data, and a single verbal communication from Colony Governor Chen. They knew. God help us. They knew exactly where to strike. On Earth, the response was immediate and unprecedented. The Global Council convened an emergency session, military forces were mobilized, and every human settlement went into high alert. But it was the message from Admiral Rodriguez, broadcast to all of humanity, that would be remembered in history books. Today, we witnessed an act of unprecedented betrayal and genocide. The Nix Collective revealed their true nature not as friends, but as exterminators. They believed that by sharing trinkets of knowledge and false friendship, they could study us, learn our weaknesses, and strike at their leisure. They were wrong. Today, humanity stands united not in fear, but in resolve. We will not be the next species to vanish quietly into the night. Let this be known. The galaxy's greatest mistake wasn't attacking humanity. It was giving us a reason to show what humanity can truly become when pushed too far. Within hours, the Nix diplomats on Earth vanished, their ships folding space in ways human sensors couldn't track. They left behind only a single transmission. Your species was evaluated and found wanting. Accept your extinction with dignity. They couldn't have misjudged humanity more completely. As emergency protocols activated across human space, as shipyards began retooling for war production, as research facilities redirected all efforts toward military technology, humanity prepared to demonstrate just how dangerous a supposedly wanting species could become. The response that would follow would shake the foundations of the galaxy, but first, humanity needed to understand exactly what they were facing, and more importantly, what they needed to become to survive. 3 months after the destruction of Meridian Prime, the Sol system had transformed into an unprecedented hive of military activity. The orbital shipyards of Mars, once dedicated to civilian vessels, now blazed with constant construction. But it was deep beneath the lunar surface where humanity's most ambitious project was taking shape. General Diana Wright stood in the central command chamber of the newly established United Defense Initiative, watching as holographic displays tracked the progress of what historians would later call the Great Awakening. She'd been chosen to lead the UDI for her unconventional thinking and absolute refusal to accept defeat. "Status report," she commanded, her voice carrying across the bustling command center. Colonel Zhao stepped forward, his tablet displaying streams of data. Production facilities across the system are operating at 300% of pre-crisis capacity. The Mercury solar collection arrays are complete, providing power for the Jupiter shipyards. Venus atmospheric processors have been converted to produce reactor fuel. Diana nodded, but her attention was drawn to a different display. "Show me Project Prometheus." The hologram shifted to show a massive facility carved into the asteroid Ceres. Here, humanity's brightest minds were attempting something unprecedented, reverse engineering the principles behind the Nexus gravity manipulation technology. Dr. Aisha Rahman's face appeared on a secondary screen. The quantum physicist had been leading the research team since day one. "General, we've made a breakthrough. The Nix don't just manipulate gravity. They manipulate the underlying fabric of space-time itself. But their approach is inefficient." Diana raised an eyebrow. "Inefficient? They brute force their way through space-time, like using a sledgehammer to drive a nail. We've discovered a more elegant solution. Instead of fighting against spatial mechanics, we're learning to work with them. The power requirements are a fraction of what we initially estimated." This was the advantage humanity had always possessed, the ability to innovate, to find new solutions where others saw only established paths. The Nexus technological superiority had made them complacent. The next breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Marcus Chen, a marine biologist, had been studying deep-sea creatures when he made a connection. "Look at how these organisms manipulate water pressure," he explained to the UDI Council. "They don't fight against the crushing depths. They work with them, distribute the force. We can apply the same principle to our ship designs." This insight led to the development of the Leviathan-class vessels, ships that could ride gravitational waves like sea creatures riding ocean currents. Each vessel would be capable of generating its own gravitational field, making them nearly impossible to target with the Nexus gravity weapons. But humanity's response wasn't limited to military technology. The attack had fundamentally altered human society itself. Ancient rivalries between nations dissolved as Earth united under the banner of survival. The Global Education Initiative was launched, transforming every school and university into a center for technological and tactical innovation. Children who once dreamed of becoming artists and musicians now studied physics and engineering, but they brought their creativity with them. This fusion of artistic thinking and scientific precision would prove to be humanity's greatest asset. In orbit around Saturn, the first prototype of the new defense system was ready for testing. The Aegis network was based on a simple observation. The Nexus gravity weapons had to follow certain physical laws. By creating a web of micro-singularities, human ships could theoretically redirect any gravitational attack back at its source. The test was successful beyond anyone's expectations. When the prototype generated a gravity pulse similar to the Nyx weapon, the defense grid not only deflected it, but amplified its power by a factor of 10. They thought they could break us. Diana addressed the UDI Council 6 months after the attack. Instead, they gave us focus. Every human, from the youngest student to the oldest engineer, is now part of this effort. We're not just building ships and weapons. We're evolving as a species. The production numbers were staggering. Shipyards across the system were producing vessels at rates that would have seemed impossible a year ago. But more importantly, each ship incorporated innovations and improvements that the Nyx would never expect. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, automated mining operations extracted rare elements needed for the new quantum drives. The asteroid belt had been transformed into a network of manufacturing facilities. Even the gas giants were being harvested, their atmospheric compounds processed into exotic fuels. But perhaps the most significant development was happening in the realm of artificial intelligence. The quantum AI, Minerva, had been created specifically to analyze Nyx technology and develop countermeasures. Its first analysis shook the UDI leadership to its core. The Nyx's technological advancement has been largely linear, Minerva reported. They find a solution that works and stick to it. They haven't faced a serious challenge in so long that they've lost the ability to adapt quickly. This is their critical weakness. Diana stood at her command station, watching as another fleet of ships emerged from the Mars shipyards. These vessels represented something the Nyx couldn't comprehend. Technology developed not through millennia of gradual advancement, but through the desperate innovation of a species fighting for survival. They thought they were executing a species, she murmured. Instead, they're watching the birth of something new. Humanity isn't just surviving. We're transcending. The next phase would require more than just ships and weapons. It would require understanding exactly what humanity was up against and why the Nyx had chosen this moment to strike. The answer would prove more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. Inside the quantum simulation chamber of Project Phoenix, Dr. Maya Patel watched as virtual ships executed maneuvers that would have been impossible just months ago. The holographic display showed human vessels phasing through space in ways that made traditional physics seem obsolete. The breakthrough wasn't in matching their technology, Maya explained to the assembled UDI leadership. It was in understanding that we could achieve the same results through entirely different means. Project Phoenix had begun as a desperate attempt to close the technological gap with the Nyx. It had evolved into something far more significant, a complete reimagining of what human technology could be. The first prototype of the Phoenix-class battleship hung in lunar orbit, its hull incorporating materials that didn't exist a year ago. The vessel's skin was composed of quantum-locked alloys that could alter their fundamental properties in response to threats. When struck by energy weapons, the hull would disperse the attack across multiple quantum states, essentially making the ship exist in several dimensions simultaneously. Admiral James Chen, who had lost his daughter on Meridian Prime, watched the prototype with intense focus. "Show me the ghost drive." Maya nodded, and the simulation changed. Traditional space travel relies on moving through space. The Nyx folds space itself. But we've developed a third option. The holographic ship seemed to blur, existing everywhere and nowhere at once. We're not moving through space or folding it. We're phasing our ships partially out of normal spacetime. The Nyx can't hit what isn't fully there. But Project Phoenix wasn't just about defensive technology. The Sunforge weapon system represented humanity's answer to the Nyx's gravity weapons. Instead of manipulating gravity directly, human ships would harvest solar plasma, compress it through quantum tunnels, and release it in controlled bursts that could disrupt the Nexus spatial distortion fields. Deep beneath Europa's ice, another aspect of Project Phoenix was taking shape. Dr. Victor Santos led the development of the Neural Fleet Integration System. The NICs coordinate their ships through standard command and control protocols, he explained. We're creating something organic, a neural network that links our ships and crews at the quantum level. Our fleets will react as a single organism, faster than any hierarchical command structure. The implications went beyond military applications. The technology developed for Project Phoenix was reshaping human civilization itself. Quantum manufacturing techniques made it possible to construct ships at unprecedented speeds. Neural integration networks were revolutionizing everything from education to medical care. But it was the discovery made by Dr. Sarah Chen's Synorteology team that changed everything. Hidden in the data stolen from NIC's diplomatic vessels was evidence that humanity wasn't their first target. The NICs had been systematically eliminating emerging civilizations for millennia. They're not conquerors, Sarah reported to the UDI Council. They're gardeners. They cultivate space-faring species until they reach a certain level of development, then harvest them for resources and technology. But they've never encountered a species that developed as rapidly as we have. This revelation led to Project Phoenix's most ambitious initiative. Hidden in the Oort cloud, automated factories began producing a new type of vessel, ships designed not just to fight the NICs, but to rescue and preserve other civilizations targeted by them. The project's pace was relentless. Every failure led to new innovations. When the first neural fleet test ended in disaster, the team discovered a way to make the system more robust by modeling it on the distributed intelligence of Earth's fungal networks. When quantum phasing threatened to tear ships apart, engineers developed self-repairing materials based on human cellular regeneration. 9 months after the attack on Meridian Prime, humanity had produced more technological innovations than in the previous century. The first fleet of Phoenix-class ships was ready for deployment, each vessel representing a confluence of technologies that would have seemed like magic just a year ago. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the flagship, Phoenix Ascendant, surrounded by systems that responded to thought as much as physical control. They thought they were culling a primitive species, he said to his crew. Instead, they forced us to become something unprecedented. The fleet's first test came when NIC scouts were detected near Saturn. 3 Phoenix-class ships intercepted them, executing combat maneuvers that left the alien vessels firing at empty space, while human ships struck from impossible angles. The NICs retreated, but the message had been sent. Humanity was no longer prey. In the aftermath of this first victory, Dr. Maya Patel addressed the UDI Council. Project Phoenix was never just about matching their technology, she explained. It was about transcending it. Every ship we build, every innovation we create, takes us further from what they understand and expect. We're not just fighting back. We're evolving beyond their ability to comprehend. The next phase would require putting this evolution to the ultimate test. As the production of Phoenix-class ships accelerated, as the neural fleet network expanded, humanity prepared not just to defend itself, but to reshape the very nature of galactic civilization. The NICs had awakened something they couldn't have anticipated, a species that turned existential threat into transformative opportunity. The discovery came from an unlikely source. While analyzing quantum echoes from NIC's facial distortions, Dr. Yuki Tanaka detected patterns that shouldn't have existed. Her research station, orbiting Neptune, had been tasked with studying NIC's technology. Instead, she found something far more disturbing. These aren't natural formations, she explained to the hastily assembled UDI Council. The holographic display showed a map of the galaxy, with thousands of points marked in red. Each of these locations shows traces of quantum manipulation, similar to what we detected during the Meridian Prime attack. But some of these events date back thousands of years. General Wright leaned forward, her expression grim. You're saying they've done this before? Not just before, Yuki replied. They've been doing it systematically. Each of these points represents a civilization that reached a specific level of technological development and then vanished. The neural fleet network, now spanning the entire solar system, had been collecting data that supported this theory. The quantum A Minerva had analyzed the patterns and reached a chilling conclusion. The Nyx weren't simply conquerors or resource gatherers. They were cultivators of civilizations. Dr. Raman's team made the next breakthrough. Hidden in the quantum signature of Nyx technology was evidence of borrowed innovation. Techniques and principles that could only have come from other civilizations. They're not just destroying species, she explained. They're harvesting their technological achievements, integrating them into their own civilization. This revelation led to a deeper understanding of the Nyx's true nature. They were technological parasites, allowing civilizations to develop until they produced useful innovations, then absorbing those advances while eliminating the competition. It was a strategy they had perfected over millennia, but their efficiency had become their weakness. The Nyx's rigid adherence to this pattern had made them predictable. More importantly, it had made them vulnerable to something they'd never encountered before, a species that could innovate faster than they could adapt. Commander Lai Wei, leading a stealth mission to the edge of Nyx space, discovered something even more significant. The Nyx weren't a single species. They were a collective of absorbed civilizations, forcibly integrated into their hierarchy. The crystalline ships that had become their trademark were actually prisons, containing the essence of conquered species. Their entire civilization is built on theft and absorption, Lai reported back. But they've never fully integrated what they've stolen. Their technology is a patchwork of different principles, often working against each other. That's why their methods seem so brute force. They don't fully understand the tools they're using. This insight proved crucial. Humanity's rapid technological development wasn't just about catching up to the Nyx. It was about understanding principles they had never fully grasped. The quantum phasing technology developed under Project Phoenix worked better than the Nyx's spatial folding because it was built on genuine understanding rather than stolen knowledge. Deep in the Mars Quantum Labs, Dr. Elena Santos made perhaps the most crucial discovery. The Nyx's control over their absorbed technologies wasn't absolute. Quantum fluctuations in their ship's signatures suggested internal conflicts, as if the absorbed civilizations were still fighting back in some fundamental way. Their greatest strength is also their greatest weakness, Elena explained to Admiral Chen. Every civilization they've absorbed leaves a quantum imprint, a kind of technological DNA. If we can isolate these signatures, we might be able to turn their own stolen technology against them. This led to the development of the Liberation Protocol, a quantum signal that could potentially awaken the suppressed consciousnesses within Nyx technology. If it worked, it wouldn't just give humanity a weapon against the Nyx. It would offer freedom to countless absorbed civilizations. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just fighting for its own survival anymore. It was positioning itself to break a cycle of extinction that had dominated the galaxy for thousands of years. The very innovations the Nyx have forced humanity to develop could be the key to their downfall. As the UDI prepared for the final phase of their response, Dr. Tanaka made one last discovery. The quantum echoes showed that the Nyx's pattern of conquest was accelerating. They weren't just harvesting civilizations anymore. They were rushing to absorb as many as possible, as quickly as possible. They're afraid, General Wright realized. For the first time in their history, they've encountered a species that doesn't follow their patterns. Every innovation we create, every adaptation we make, pushes us further from anything they've encountered before. We're not just threatening their dominance, we're threatening their entire way of existence. The stage was set for a confrontation that would reshape the galaxy. Humanity had begun this journey as victims of an overwhelming force. They would end it as something the Nyx had never encountered in all their millennia of conquest, a species that turned attempted extinction into transcendent evolution. 1 year after the destruction of Meridian Prime, humanity was ready. The Sol system had been transformed into something unprecedented, not just a war machine, but an crucible of evolution. 700,000 ships hung in formation around Saturn, each vessel representing the pinnacle of human innovation. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Phoenix Ascendant, surveying the gathered fleet through the neural interface. Every ship, every crew member, was connected through the quantum network, their combined consciousness forming something greater than the sum of its parts. They thought they were following their normal pattern. He addressed the unified fleet. Find a developing civilization, let it advance to a certain point, then harvest its innovations and eliminate the competition. But they made a crucial mistake. They gave humanity a reason to surpass all their expectations. The fleet was divided into three main forces. The Liberation Fleet, led by General Wright, carried the quantum resonators designed to awaken the suppressed civilizations within Nix technology. The Phoenix Fleet, under Admiral Chen's command, would engage the Nix directly with humanity's most advanced weapons. The Shadow Fleet, commanded by Captain Lei Wei, would use quantum phasing technology to strike from unexpected vectors. Deep in the Oort cloud, Dr. Raman's team had constructed the quantum beacon that would draw the Nix into humanity's trap. When activated, it would simulate the signatures of multiple rapidly advancing civilizations, an irresistible lure for the Nix's harvesting instincts. The response came faster than expected. Space itself seemed to tear open as the Nix fleet emerged from their spatial folds. Their crystalline ships, now recognized as the prisons they truly were, filled the space around Pluto's orbit. There were thousands of them, each one carrying the stolen essence of countless civilizations. The Nix transmitted a single message. Your resistance is an anomaly that will be corrected. Your innovations will be absorbed. Your species will be forgotten. Admiral Chen's response was brief. No, we won't. The battle began with a maneuver that the Nix couldn't have anticipated. Instead of engaging directly, the human fleet executed a synchronized quantum phase shift. 700,000 ships partially phased out of normal spacetime, becoming ghost-like apparitions that the Nix's weapons couldn't touch. The Liberation Fleet struck first. Quantum resonators activated, sending waves of awakening energy through the crystalline ships. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The stolen technologies within Nix vessels began to resist their controllers. Ships started moving erratically, their weapons firing at random as thousands of absorbed consciousnesses fought for freedom. The Shadow Fleet emerged from quantum phase at impossible angles, striking at the Nix's weakest points with precisely calculated attacks. The Sunforge weapons proved devastatingly effective, their solar plasma bursts disrupting the spatial distortion fields that the Nix relied upon. But it was the Phoenix Fleet's synchronized assault that demonstrated just how far humanity had evolved. Moving with perfect coordination through the neural network, human ships executed combat maneuvers that defied traditional physics. They shifted between normal space and quantum phase states, appeared to be in multiple locations simultaneously, and turned the Nix's own gravity weapons against them. The Nix attempted to adapt, but their stolen technology worked against them. Every innovation they had harvested over millennia was now awakening, turning their ships into battlegrounds between the controllers and the controlled. Dr. Raman's voice came through the neural network. The quantum signatures are destabilizing. The absorbed civilizations, they're breaking free. The liberation cascade spread through the Nix fleet like a virus. Crystalline ships began to shatter, releasing the essence of long-trapped species. The Nix's carefully maintained hierarchy of stolen power was collapsing. In a desperate gambit, the Nix commanders attempted to trigger their gravity cascade weapons, the same weapons that had destroyed Meridian Prime. But humanity had prepared for this. The Aegis network activated, creating a web of micro-singularities that caught the gravitational attack and redirected it back at the Nix fleet. The battle lasted less than 6 hours. When it was over, the Nix's power was broken. Their ships were either destroyed or liberated, their stolen technology reclaimed by its original creators. The quantum resonance of thousands of freed civilizations filled space, each one carrying the memory of their imprisonment and the story of their liberation. Admiral Chen stood before the UDI Council one last time. The Nix believed that progress could only be achieved through theft and destruction. They couldn't understand that true evolution comes from innovation, from facing challenges and finding new solutions. They thought they were harvesting civilization. Instead, they planted the seeds of their own downfall. In the years that followed, humanity took on a new role in the galaxy. The technology developed to fight the Nix was repurposed to help rebuild and reconnect the freed civilizations. The neural network became a means of sharing knowledge and culture across species. The quantum phasing technology that had helped win the war now helped explore and understand the universe in ways previously unimaginable. The Nix had intended to make humanity another footnote in their history of conquest. Instead, they had triggered an evolutionary leap that transformed not just human civilization, but the very nature of galactic society. Their legacy would not be one of destruction and theft, but of unintended liberation and unprecedented unity. As ships of the newly formed Galactic Concordat prepared to explore unknown regions of space, Admiral Chen reflected on how far humanity had come. They thought they were ending our story, he mused. Instead, they helped us write the first chapter of something far greater.